Hi everyone, welcome to the Language Training Center, a new concept English video classroom. And today we will learn lesson 68. Sağdaşlı yaxşımsızlar. Bugünkü dersimiz kelganinglarni qarshi olamiz. Hamda bugünkü ders 68-ci ders. Şuna sizlar kitablarning biri shu 68 darsni ochib birga ko'rsanglar. Chunki bu video darsiki shu kitob bilan masqadan demoqchi. Yana bu kitob qanday desanglar intayim muhim. Bo'lsa, yeringizda bir kitob bo'lsin, hamda nima desanglar, shunda birlikda o'rganib ketsak. Xo'sh, oldingi darsni bir takrorlaylik. Biz bu 68 dars o'xshashlar nima desanglar 67 darsniki takrori. Endi buni tilga olingan bir necha muhim nuqtalar bor. Buni masalan enjoy degan gap chiqdi, tushunami? Endi bu enjoy degan nayta xushal xuram o'ynamoq degan gap. Xushal xuram o'ynamoq degan gap. Endi bunida masalan myself, himself deb chiqdi, tushunami? Endi bu yerga qarasanglar, bu yer bir qator igilar bor, tushunami? I, Ben, Emma, the cat, we, they, you degan gap. Endi men birinchi qaranglar, enjoy ourselves. Okay. Endi bu enjoy ourselves degan biz o'zimizdan qanday qila olamiz, o'zdirla olamiz. Men our degan bizning mate ourselves bo'lsa, o'zlarimiz degan gap. Buning maskagini men oldib tanlasak nima desanglar, we shunami? Anaqdan birinchi ayga maskagancha, ay degan men shunami? Endi mening bo'lsa nima deydik? My. Men o'zim bo'lsa myself. Demak, I enjoy nima? Myself. Okay, misharike I enjoy nima? Myself. Yake misharike I always enjoy myself. And pigligini tanlasak, qanday desanglar, tashlasak bo'lgan gap. Demak, I always enjoy myself. Nima? Endi ben degan hamda o'g'il bola. U shunami? U bo'lgan degan nima? Him shunami? Himself. He always enjoy himself. Yaki Ben is enjoying himself. Ben nayt xushal xuram o'ynayapti. What about Emma? Emma degan ayolning ismi shunami? Bu Emma, okay, misharik Emma always enjoys herself. Okay, endi bu shu qizlarga, ayollarga kelgan nima? Her, shunami? Enjoys herself. Okay, what about the cat? Okay, the cat, and the other cat ning uning degan shu it. Bu nima bo'ladi? Itself. Demak, the cat is enjoying itself. O o'zidan qanday qilyapti? O'zirlayapti. Okay. What about we? Biz degan gap bo'ldi, shunami? We, biz. Biz. And the we bo'lsa biz shunami? We always enjoys ourselves. Shunami? We always enjoy ourselves. And they, ular shunami? They always enjoy themselves. Shunami? They enjoy themselves. Demak, ularni aytda xushal xuram qanday qildi? O'ynaydi. What about you? You enjoy yourself degandek. Endi qaranglar. Reading match. Endi men tuandagi ma'nosini, masalan, birinchisi you go there to see a doctor. Which place? It's a doctor's. Shunami? Doktorxona yoki bir ambulatoriya deymiz. Shunami? Shuningmi? Doctors. So you go there to see a doctor. Endi men yerga aniqlimizga asosan sharisiga asosan hamda shundan tanlaydigan gap. Masalan, he bought some what? He bought some hairdressers? No, he bought some stationaries. Okay, stationaries. Like stationaries deganda nimalar? Madaniyat buyumlari do'koni shunami? Masalan, uchagich, qalam, obonasini sotib oldigan. Some erasers here, right? Erasers degan uchagich qo'yilmishadi. So she goes there to cut her hair. Okay, cut her hair bo'lsa, the hairdressers. Satrashxona shunami? Uning nima ekamiz? Hairdressers. You know, I'm going there to what? To get some peas. Purchaq degan gap bu. Endi buni nima deymiz? Greengrocers. Say kufta dukane. Buni greengrocers. You know, we are going to there to get some steak. The misharika new pie. Bunun nima desanglar, the butchers. Qanday nima ko'rishimiz kerak ekan? Qassobxonaga berishimiz kerak ekan. Onun deganda miyara muhim bir nuqta. U bo'lsin nima desanglar, mishariki in, on, at deganlarni ishlatilsa. Endi bu in deganimiz data, shunami? Odatda bu birga yillarning oldiga keldi. Masalan, in 1949. Yani birga oylarning oldiga keldi. Masalan, in October, in November, in December. Onun keyin yana ko'rsanlar, har xil fasllarning oldiga keldi. Masalan, in winter, in spring, in summer, in autumn deyilgancha. Endi yana ko'rsanlar, shu doir vaqtlarni, masalan, in the morning, in the evening, in the afternoon degandekcha. Tushdan burun, tushdan keyin mushlag'im qanday desanlar, in kelgan. In degan cho'ng bir doirni biliriz. Nima? Endi bu yerga on cho desanlar, bir kunlarning oldiga keldi. Masalan, on Monday, on Friday, nima? On Children's Day, masalan, on June 1st. Endi bu June 1st qarasanlar, voy ma'lum bu oy bo'lgango. Oy bu oy emas. Ay bilan kun bir. Demakchi, aniq kunni ko'rsatadi shunama. January 1st degan birinchi oyning birinchi kuni. U aniq bir kun. Agar June 1st shunama. Endi agar bishari June bo'lgan bo'lsa, buningga in keldi. Masalan, in June, in September, in August degandek. Endi bu yergisi June nima? 1st. Okay? June 1st. 7-ci ayını, ya 6-cı ayının nimsə birinci günü. Demək hamda on aniq kunlarning oldiga keldi. Tushunalmi? Onun ekanında nima desanlar? At. Okay, hamda bu at deganimiz nima desanlar? Aniq bir nuqta. Masalan, aniq vaqtni bildirganda. Masalan, at a quarter to 7 yoki at 6:45, at 7, at noon, at night degandek. Mesela at noon mı ne? Konuşku o vakti. At noon deyimiz. At night. Demek hamda şu in, on, at. Okay, şu üçününki mühim bo'lgan işletilişi. Okay, so let's get the ball rolling. Lesson 68. What is the time? Okay, what is the time? Saat qancha bo'ldi deydi. What is the time? So, what is the time? Okay, what is the time? Mesela ekrandaki saatlarni o'qiy olamsizlar bolalar. Mesela cho'ng soat necha o'pdi? 10dan 35 o'tib shunami? Odatda soat o'qiganda biz oldingi soatda bir qatam bir aniq eskartgan, agar minutlarni 30 dan cho'ng bo'lsa, manchidan manchi minut qoldi deymiz. Agar 30 dan kichik yoki tang bo'lsa, manchidan manchi o'tdi deymiz shunami? Endi ma'nida 10dan 35 o'tib shunami? Demak, manchi minut qoldi deymiz shunami? 25 minut qoldi, nechaga? 11 ga. Demakchi 25, it's 25 to 11. 25 to 11. So where were you at yesterday? deydi. Xo'sh, endi men kalendarni bir o'qib baqalib bolalar. What date is it? Okay, what date is it? Ma birinchisidan nima desanlar? 2016 January 1st. Masda o'qibasam January 1st. Okay, hamda ma o sonlarga kelsak, savatlashlama har xil daraja sonlarni o'rgangan. Masalan, 1-chi, 2-chi, 3-chi, 4-chi, 5-chi degandek-ku. Hamda shu eng muhim, eng ta'sir birinchisi, 3-chisigacha. Birinchisi deganda first. Okay, first. 2-chi deganda-ku second. 3-chi deganda-ku third. 4-chi deganda-ku fourth. Hamda keyiniga 4-ni keyiniga th. Ma'lum qatliq bana shunami? Mushlarni qatib maqsanlar, daraja sonlar chiqadi. Masalan, 1-chi, 2-chi, 3-chi, masalan, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th degandek, 8th, 9th, 10th. Mushlarni bo'ldi desanlar, naqashniki tartib sonlar bo'ldi. Masalan, birinchi oyning birinchi deyishimiz kerak. Shunami? Shuni January 1st. Okay. Hamda ikkinchisi qarsak nima desanlar, 2016da ikkinchi oyninki 14 ekan. 14. Bu nima desanglar? February 14th. February 14th. Ishdami? And the keyingisi March. March 12th. Alright? Bu nima deb o'qiymiz? March 12th. Keyingisi April 1st. April 1st. It means April Fool's Day, right? And yalğancılar bayrami, aldamcılar bayrami, ahmaqlik bayrami. Okay, what about next one? May 1st. Okay, May 1st. May 1st deganimiz shu 5-oyning 1. And keyingisi June 1st. Okay, keyingisi nima desanglar? June 1st. So, where were you on? Okay. Masalan, where were you on January 1st? Can you remember? Amsa shu birinchi aynan birinchi kuni siz nari edingiz? Where were you on January 1st? Where were you on? Siz nari edingiz? Okay. And keyingisi qaranglar, keyingisiga masalan June. Okay, June 7th. Okay, birinchisini aytgan June 7th. 7-oyning nechisi? 7-kuni. Okay, and June 4th. 7-oyning 4-i nima? It's the Independence Day of the United States of America. And Amerikada mustaqillik kuni hisobda davlat bayrami. 7-oyning nechinchisi? 4-kuni. Okay, July 4th. Okay, July 4th. So what about August 1st? Of course, the same. August 1st. And the mao 8-oyning 1-kuni. 8-oyning 1-kuni. Oniki keyingisi September. Okay, September 10th. Okay, September 10th. And the September 11th bo'lsa, 11-sentabr vaqasi deymizku. And the September 10th. Nechinchi kuni? 9-oyning 10-kuni. Oniki, what about October? Okay, you know, October 1st. October 1st. Birinchi kuni. What about November 11th? Okay, November 11th. December 1st. Demek ki aylarni o'qiganda avval oyninkini deb uni manchinchi desak qanarisanglar bo'ladi. July 7th, August 1st, September 10th, okay, October 1st degandek. So where were you on? Where were you on? Okay, look, sentence structure. And so where was Mr. Williams on Saturday 1st? Where were Mrs. Williams, Mrs. Williams on January 1st? Look, where was Mrs. Williams? Where was she? Okay, you know, she was at the butcher's, right? We can say she was at the butcher's on January 1st. And biz oldingi soat o'rgangan bolalar was, were. Bu nima desanglar? Shu BP'larni o'tgan zaman shakli. Masalan, am is'ni o'tgan zaman shakli, was, are ning o'tgan zaman shakli nima? Were. Demak, she was at the butcher's on January 1st. Okay, she was at the butcher's on January 1st. Ular birinchi ayning birinchi kuni nari edi? Qassobxonada edi. Qassobxonada qanda u birinchi ayning biri edi. Demak, endi bu o'tgan zaman, tushunami? So, where was Mrs. Johnson on February 2nd? And said Johnson Hanım ikkinchi ayning ikkisi nari edi? At the greengrocer's. And the miyarga greengrocer's shu sayko'xtat nimasi? Dukkan. And the bunnim name is, she was at the greengrocer's on February 2nd. On February 2nd. Demek o ikkinchi ayning ikkinchi kuni nimada sayko'xtat dukkanda. You know, she was at the greengrocer's on February 2nd. Okay? Look and think. You know, Mrs. Williams was at the butcher's, right? Mrs. Johnson was at the greengrocer's. And then we had Johnson and so where were and past information. And then we had was, were, and then we had so coach. O'tgan zamonda bildirlar. Okay. Demak shu o'tgan zamondagi ma'lum uchurlarni qanaqa qilgan gap, o'zlagan gap. Masalan, Mrs. Williams was at the butcher's. Nada u qassobxona dedi. Mrs. Johnson was at the greengrocer's and Johnson xonim nari edi? Shu sayko'fta do'kon dedi. Demak hamda bu ilgirki. Demak hozir u yerda emas, ilgiri burun shu yerda idi degandan derak berdi. So, hamda mishariki was, were ikkisini bir ishiltib baqaylik savolashlar. Masalan, birinchisini misol qilib sizlarga ishlab bersam, I am 11 years old this year. Hamda men bu yil 11 yoshga kirdim. So, I was 10 years old last year. Hamda men o'tgan yili qancha yosh edim? 10 yosh edim. Ana qog'ozlarga qarab qo'yinglar. Jimmy is at home now. He blah 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 at school yesterday. O tunugun maktabda idi deydi. Hamda bu shu 3-chi shaxs birlikka izmiti, uni o'tgan zaman shakllanmaydi was. Yaxshi. He was at school yesterday. He was at school yesterday. What about 3? Justin is at the stationaries on Tuesday. Moshu Jumakine on Tuesday. Tuesday deganimiz nima? Seshanba. Shunami? Hamda seshanba Johnson nada dukkunida. And he was at the hairdressers on Sunday. And u yakshanba kuni narida satrashxonada. Okay, what about number 4? They are at their mother's today. Ular bugun opasini uyida. They got us home yesterday. And they köplik shunami? Köplik nima keldi? Odatda BPL'dan or keldi, ordan o'tgan zaman shakli were. Demak, they were at Gaga's home yesterday. They were at Gaga's home yesterday. Again, what about number 5? We are at the greengrocer's at 8:30, right? So we were at the butcher's at 7 o'clock. Demek hamda soat 7da narida butcher's da. Okay. So look more and talk. Okay, look guys. So where were they on March 3rd? Where were they on March 3rd? And the ular narrative March 3rd. March degan nima so'rashlar? March degan 3-oyning 3 ular narrative. Nargan bola maktab degan shunami? At school maktabda. Demak, they were at school on March 3rd. Ular 3-oyning 3 maktabda edi. Amsa yana qarab javob ber bola. So where was he on April 4th? At home. The name is where was he on April 4th? So we can call he was at home on April 4th. Ular April 4th mushu naride uydide u uydide. So where was she on May 5th? Where was she on May 5th? And specially naride, at the office. So you can say she was at the office on May 5th. Okay. So where was she on June 6th? Okay, where was she on June 6th? Right? Okay, at the grocers, right? And she was at the grocers on June 6th, right? She was at the grocers on June 6th. June 6th. So where were they on July 7th? Where were they on July 7th? Okay, and that okay, at church. And the one name is they were at church on July 7th. So where was he on August 8th? Okay, at the hairdresser. Demek ne diyeceğimiz? He was at the hairdressers on August 8th. Demek 8'inde yana 8'e manarken şu erken. So where was he on September 9th? What about September 9th? And he was again at the baker's nama bulkhana yak navayxana nama. Deyimiz he was at the baker's on September 9th. Okay. What about she? She was, where was she on October 10th? October 10th. Okay, she was where? At the dairy. Okay, dairy is meslatları. Demek nama arxıl süt qaymaq degenlikten. She was at the dairy on October 10th. October 10th. Okay. Anlatsa manın da kalkısana, where were they? Okay, where were they? And ular qayerda idi deydi. Endi bu yerga men bir necha o'rinlarni ko'rsatgan, mayada deb o'rinni ko'rsatgan bir necha turaqliq iboralar bor. Masalan qarab baksak, they were. Okay, ular mayada shunami? Masalan they were at school, at home, at church debchi. Mishariki at school deganimiz hamda ular maktabda. Endi bu maktabda degan so'z bu turaqliq ibora bo'lib keldi. Ular maktabda. Endi buning ma'nosi nima desam, ular maktabda o'qiyotdi degandan derak beradi-ku endi ma'noda. Shunga buning oldiga ko'rsatkich artikel the-ni qanday qilmaydi desanglar, olmaydi. Endi masalan bolalarningki yoki shu yeri bo'lishi asosli maktab nima desanglar, o'qish uchun shunami? Demak, ular maktabda o'qiyotdi degandan derak berdi. Demek endi bu yerga bu sharika harakatni bekrak qanday qilib turdi desanglar, bizga ta'kidlab berdi. Agar endi bu yerga the school degancha, the school ma'oldiga aniq artikel dini olsak, bular endi shu konkret ko'rsatayotgan maktabning o'zini ko'rsatadi. Masalan, o maktabda masalan bugun to'p o'ynagan olgan bo'lsa, o maktabdan qo'rosda. Aniq shu qo'roni maktabning o'ylasining ishida ishkanligini bildirdi endi bu yergisi. Şuna adeta bu adetga aylangan hamda ular maktabda shu maktabdagi maqsad shu nima arsan o'qish. Demak, u o'qiyotdi, u maktabda degandan derak berdi. Shuna they were at school. Adeta buni nima qilmaysan at school. Uningdiki yancha uyda bo'lsa they were at home. Okay, uyda. Demak, shu uyda yoki aramayotdi yoki uyda nima ish qiladi shundan nima arsanlar, shu aramak ishlarga aniq shu turaqliq iborani at home and at church. Ve at church deganimiz nima desanlar, shu chirkovda tilovat qilmoq, ibodat qilmoq, namoz o'qimoq degan ma'nolarni bildirdi. Shunga bu aniq nima desanlar at church deb keldi. Agar at the church bo'lsa, shu aniq chirkovning o'zida deganda bu harakatni ta'kidlamaydi. Masalan, balki bu sayohat qilib hamda balki shu chirkovga borgan bo'lsa yoki chirkovda va yoki ma'lum narsa chirkov saqlaqlik yoki chirkovda degandek ma'nosi bo'lsa, nima at church bo'ladi. Onunkin bazı isimlar. Masalan, har xil masalan mushning oldiga sifat kelgan. Adeta ismlarning oldiga sifatlab kelgan, shu sifatninki mana oldirib keldi-ku. Endi mushning o'xshash hamda shu qassobninki, navayninki, satrashninki, buning deganlarning oldiga nima desanglar, d keladi. Amniyatda mayarki at the butchers degan, at the butchers shop degan gap. Ma keyindiga ustiga pash qo'yilib, asqatilgandan keyin esa shop degan bo'lish kerak, batchu. Hamda buni qanday qilmagan desanglar, qisqartirib ketgan. Shunga ma'lum desanglar, they were at the butchers, u go'sht dukkanida, ular go'sht dukkanida. They were at the hairdressers, ular satrashxonada. They were at the bakers, ular nima navayxonada. They were at the dairies. Okay, dairy was, misharika sut mahsulotlar do'konida. They were at the grocers, and the misharika turli mallar do'konida. They were at the greengrocer, ular sayko'kta do'konida. Hamsa ma'ni bir mashq qilib sağlaslar. Qaranglar, I was at the church on Sunday. Okay, endi bu yerga go'ring da apesini bilish kerak. At the church emas, nima? At church. Demak, oldirga the aniq ko'rsatgich artikelni qanday qo'ydik? Qisqartib aytdik. Shunga buni qanday qilmasligimiz kerak? The-ni yozmaymiz. Shunga I was at church on Sunday. Shu oldiga at lam qanday qilgan gap desanglar, the-ni elitib at church lam qilgan gap. Buni endi qanaqa qilib o'tamiz? Elib o'tamiz. Endi ikkinchisi, I was at office on Monday. Okay, endi men o'rta qismlarninki oldiga ko'plik bildirib kelgan nima? Lekin ma'ni qanaqa qilamiz? D-ni qatimiz. Demak, I was at the office on Monday. The office on Monday. Okay, keyingisi, my son was at school on Tuesday. Seshanba kuni nada? Maktabda. My son was at school on Tuesday. On Tuesday. And to'rtinchisi, endi ma'noda nima desam, the deganni qanaqa qilmaymiz? Olmaymiz. Demak, at school shu maktabda o'qiydi. Seshanba kuni u maktabda qanaqa qildi? O'qiydi. Okay, to'rtinchisi, my wife was at butcher's on Wednesday. Endi bu yerga nima? At the butcher's qilgan gap. Bu yerga the-ni qanaqa qilamiz? Qistirgan gap. Okay, beshinchisi. Beshinchisi qarab baqsaq, she was a grocer's Tuesday. She was at. Bu yerga nima? The qanaqa qilib tursanlar? Kam qilib qopdi-ku. And oltinchisi. My daughter was in country on Friday. And masalan sahra deganni ko'rsatdi, masalan in the country shnama. Ma'aldiga the-ni qanaqa qilgan gap desanlar, qistirgan gap. My daughter was in the country on Friday. Yettinchisi, I was at home on Saturday. Okay, endi bu yerga nima desanlar? At home. Home va qanaqa maydasanlar kelmaydi. Xo'sh, hamsa mashq baqayli. Qaranglar, when were they at church? They were at church on Sunday. Okay, mushunga o'xshash birlikda yezib chiqargan gap. What about this? Like Tom, hairdressers, Thursday. Okay. Tom, the hairdressers, Thursday. And buni nima savol qo'ygan nima? When was? Shunama, when was Tom at the hairdressers? Tom degan o'g'il bola shunga she was at the hairdressers on Thursday. Okay, bu yerda nima desanlar? Thursday bosh. Nima? Okay, what about Mrs. Jones, the butcher's Wednesday? Chorshanba kuni. Shunama? So, when Mrs. Jones, when was Mrs. Jones at the butcher's? Oh, qachon shu qasabxona desa? She was at the butcher's on Wednesday. Ular qaysi kunda? Mushu chorshanba kunda. Okay. So Ben home Saturday. Okay, Ben mushu Saturday shanba kuni narikan uyda ekan shunama. Demak, when was Ben at home? When was Ben at home? He was at home on Saturday. And so Justin, Justin, the baker's Friday. And the Misharike, Justin, Jumakan Narikan, Navaihan Nikan Shnama, and the Kachan Shuarity Boshuma, when was Justin at the baker's? Okay, he was at the baker's on Friday. Good. He was at the baker's on Friday. He was at the baker's on Friday. Okay, on baker's on Friday. Okay, what about Mr. Williams' office? The Tuesday. And the miyarike qachon William Appendam yarate sanlash when was birlamadan bo'lsa when was Mr. Williams at the office? Bu yerga nima? At the office. Shnama? And he was at the office on Tuesday. He was at the office on Tuesday. And that I choose the best answer. And the o'lchamlik javoblarni tanlab beringlar. So where can you buy the bread and cakes? Where can you buy? A, at the hairdressers. B, at the bakers. C, at the greengrocer. And the qarabdan talab etsak nima? B. Albatta bol kuni shu at the bakers deb aytamiz nima? Chashni aytamiz at the hairdressers. And the mevchugini aytamiz at the greengrocers. Greengrocers. What about where are you going to stay in the country? Where are you going to stay in the country? And Sahra Naratur says, we are going to stay at my uncle's, at my uncle's, in my uncle's. Okay, muştan nere? At my uncle's. Anladın yani ki demek ki uncle's house degenden direkt birlemiş yani ki uyda. Şuna ama demek ki şu uncle'nin ki uyda turmakçı. Şimdi the twins in Dalian last year. Okay, the twins ötkenjili bolgan kelime they were. Şuna ama they were in Dalian last year and they are here now. Ular hazır qandayken müşarikin. Okay, dördüncüsü qaranglar. Qaysini tanladinglar? So, who was on duty last Friday? On duty degan dejurni degan gap. Hamda o'tgan juma kuni kim dejurni idi deydi. Bu nima? Men idim bo'lsa, men I was. Okay, ma B bo'ladi. Beshinchisi. Okay. Was your father at work last Friday? Was your father at work last Friday? Desa, amoşnanga was akillan gap. Bo'ldi savatdoshlar, bizningki 68 dars müşahada oxirlashdi. Andaqda sizlar shu kitobdagi mashqni bizningki abay so'ziga mazmunlar bilan birlashtirib, tafsiliy bir ishlasanglar, buningki texmo cho'nqur his qila olasizlar, tushunasizlar. Okay, that's all for today. See you next time. Goodbye.